Hey everybody, welcome back to Shoe In Show. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. This is the Shoe In Show Footwear Leadership Series powered by OrthoLite. In this special series, as you've heard in the past, hopefully you'll go to shoeleaders.com to listen to all these great episodes. But we sit down with some of the top executives in our industry, and we talk about their leadership philosophies, their culture, how they shape organizations. And these conversations offer a behind the scenes look at what it takes to lead footwear in this kind of chaotic world that we're in. Again, a big thank you to OrthoLite for making this series possible. They work with over 550 leading footwear brands. And OrthoLite continues to elevate comfort and performance across the industry as they elevate these conversations as well. Matt, who do we have on this week to shoot holes at, I guess, and kind of get some insights to what's happening with leadership and kind of peel back, what's happening in this kind of chaotic world and how important it is for leadership and culture to get through some of these challenging times.
Yeah, so it's an honor and a privilege to have our dear friend, our longtime colleague, our new boss, Josue Solano, who's the CEO of BBC International, and more importantly for our purposes, Andy, the chairman of FDRA. So it's like we have to be minding our P's and Q's on our best shoe and show behavior because the boss man's in town and we gotta kind of, we gotta make sure we're shooting straight here. So Josue, thank you for joining us on Shoe and Show. We've known you a long time. You've been on Shoe and Show before. I don't remember what year it was. It's probably 8 or 9 years ago. That being said, welcome back. And as we get started, walk us through your shoe story. I know it. I know you've been in a number of different shoe companies, but what led you to this moment where you're now the esteemed CEO of BBC International?
Well, thanks guys for having me on the show again. I had a lot of fun doing it the first time, so I was looking forward to it again. Thanks for inviting me back. I'll keep it really brief. I had no intention of going into the shoe industry when I started my career. I wanted to be a hospital administrator. That was my goal. I started working at Payless Shoe Source primarily because they would pay for my graduate studies. But my career went really well there. I had a good time. I was like, wow, this is kind of really interesting in a super dynamic industry. From there, I went to work at the Sports Authority because I wanted to get out of shoes. I wanted to get into apparel and some hard lines and things like that. And I did all of that work, but ended up back in shoes again. Reconnected with Bob and Don, who were the owners and founders of BBC International, founded in 1975. They were selling to me when I was, buying at Payless Shoe Source. So reconnected with them, joined as vice president of operations for their company. Was on the road for 6 years selling. I pretty much held almost every position in the company, it felt like, which is really good training ground, sitting right in between those two titans and learning and learning and learning. I worked for them for several years and eventually ascended to the ranks and became the CEO of the company.
That's unbelievable. And we all know the late, great Bob Campbell, Dr. Bobby Campbell. He was a longtime supporter of FDRA and on our board, supporter of 210, just an entrepreneur through and through. I got to know him over my years at FDRA. Working under him had to be a unique experience, as well as with Don, as you mentioned, Wilbon. So walk us through kind of what it's like to take the reins of a company, Josue, that's got a culture built into a single man, essentially, right? The cult of that founder in a positive sense. Walk us through what it's like to take the reins. I have to imagine there's a lot of sacred territory you have to navigate through, but also some things you want to do differently. Sometimes I don't want to equate it to coming in behind like an iconic football coach, but there's probably some of that aspect to it. Talk to us and to our listeners and our viewers about what that process was like when you took over the helm there at BBC.
Sure. Well, we think of Bobby and Don, his 45-year partner, all the time. We still celebrate Bobby Day in the company one time a year, right around his birthday, early in July, and we do something special for the staff, or we do something for the community. As everybody knows, he was grounded in giving back. Both of our founders are still very present in our culture and always will be. Bob taught me and the rest of us to be tenacious, to stay positive, to not sweat the small stuff was one of his sayings. And all of those things that Bob and Don brought to the company are still present. I'm honored to be partners with his son, who is Seth Campbell, who's a total tiger. He's so smart and has all of the charisma that Bob had, the intelligence, the drive. And we couldn't have a better relationship, similar to what Bob and Don shared. So we're looking to a long, successful relationship, both in business and personally together. And I got to tell you, when I took over the reins at BBC, I was like, how in the world am I going to replace Bob Campbell? And the answer is you can't really replace Bob Campbell. But I said to myself, the whole company's culture revolved around him and his personality and who he was. The whole industry thought of us as him. But we had a tremendous core of executives in the company who were fantastic at what they did. And my goal was just to rally the troops, set a strategy. We worked a lot on culture of the company outside of what just Bob and Don represented. We documented those things. We talked about it, and we started behaving against that culture and against those core values. Hiring decisions, big decisions in the company, even small ones, all revolved around that. We communicated it with our employees, with our vendors, with our partners, with our customers. And when we started behaving against those core values and those strategies, it just became very natural. We kept all the good stuff and got rid of what we felt was not working for us in terms of our growth strategy. And it's been great. I'm 5.5 years into this role. The company is strong, healthy. We're happy. We're ready to go. And it's been a true blessing for me to have been able to sit in between those two guys and learn for 20 years, and then be able to sit in my role today and try to carry on the growth of this amazing company.
Yeah, when I think of Bob, I think of a teacher. He has so many stories, and he's so like, he'll tell you how something was, and then how it's different, and like how they tackled something. He's like very open um, to how he navigated. I mean, he was one of the trailblazers going into China and elsewhere. And if people want to go back, they can listen to the episode we taped with him on Shoe and Show, which is fascinating, where he talks about sleeping on the floor of the factory, right? So like a real shoe dog in that sense. But as we look today, we've got all this new talent coming into the industry. How do you look at like new hires coming in, and how do you think about workforce? Do you do like a weekly call with everybody on staff? How do you engage with different levels of employees within the company?
Well, we have an open door policy. We always have. So anybody in the company can walk in to any of our offices and talk about, themselves professionally, what's going on in the company, or any issues they might have. I try to stay very grounded with the staff and the team. We're a pretty sizable company, but we run it like a family business. So we're somewhere in between corporate and true family, I think, is the right mix. As far as talent, we try to find the best athletes for the role, best athletes for the team. We're aggressive about finding talent. We're aggressive about retaining talent. And I have a group of direct reports, and I have one-on-ones with them regularly. It's really their time to spend with me to talk about anything that they want. If they want to know the direction of the company, if they have a project that they're working on that they need my support to move forward, if they have concerns, whatever it might be. And I find those to be tremendously invaluable for me as a leader, because I learn a lot about what's happening throughout the company. I'm able to provide guidance and help. I see my role as a leader as somebody who's supposed to facilitate the work that's being done by my people. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing my job. So from just thinking strategically about direction of the company, it's really being in the trenches with my people, my direct reports, and helping them be as successful as possible.
That's very interesting. My dad, he worked at a steel factory and he did quality control. So he always told me, he said, the problem with some people are they'll look at a report and they'll say something's wrong. I don't know what's happening. And my dad says, go to the factory floor and ask the guy running the machine.
Right.
Like he'll tell you what's wrong. You just don't ask him. Right. And so it's very interesting you say it that way, because it is true. It's like the best way to know the inner workings of the company is to ask the folks doing the job itself, to know it before it percolates up to a problem, where you can kind of make sure things are flowing smoothly. So I think that's great. You said earlier you traveled a lot. Are you still traveling a lot now that you're CEO? Are you still going to Asia very often? How do you balance your time between having to manage all the US based employees with your relationships with your vendors in Asia?
I think it's very important as a leader to make sure you're spending a lot of time focusing on where you should be spending your time. It's a really delicate balance because you don't want to get caught in the weeds at any point in time if you're a senior level manager in any company. But at the same time, you have to be in tune enough with what's going on to really drive the process. Because as senior leaders, we're able to see the field at a broader view. So a lot of times, divisional leaders or departmental leaders see their silo and a little bit of what's going on. But what I learn in my one-on-ones is I'll get information. I'll start talking to somebody. I'm like, well, what did you think about this? They may not have that purview that I do. And that's really where you can add value as a leader. If you remove yourself too far from the process and you sit on your iron throne, you're going to miss those things. You're going to miss the ability to connect with your staff, with your employees, and you're going to miss the ability to drive business where it really matters. And how can you possibly build a strategy for your company that's going to actually work if you don't really know what's going on?
Well, and the beauty of your background, Josue, is that you've had all these jobs, right? These one-on-ones are with folks that are holding jobs that you once had, and that's critically important. In our industry, we see a lot of times outsiders are brought in, a search is propped up to bring in a new executive. They're brought in, the culture's different. There's not always a fit. It doesn't bode well for the long-term health of the company. But you had the perfect resume for this job, having worked for Bob as well as in all these positions. But as I was listening to kind of the process that you went through over these last 5.5 years, which blows my mind, it's been that long. But the fact is, it was almost this maturation process, because the fact of the matter is, it's built on Bob and Don's personas, their intellect, their knowledge, their wisdom they built up over the many years, both with triumph and tragedy. And so you have to kind of once they move on, you have to capture that in a way. And there's this maturation process. So how important was it to the employees as you started to kind of map things out and build a little bit more structure now that the namesake, founder of the company had passed on? How was that process? And I have to imagine the employees really appreciate it, but at the same time, you want to still be that entrepreneur, right? And the more kind of corporate structure you put on something can kind of dampen that down. So walk us through that fine balance between entrepreneurial, but also structured so that you can perform well and your employees feel like they have that structure underneath them that they need.
It's a great question, because prior to coming to a private company, I spent the first part of my career working for corporate America. And so I was working here at BBC for 20 years, I always had that question. Where on that line should the company be? Where can you be most successful? Corporations that are really large have a tough time being flexible because, rules, regulations, policies, and things like that. Small privately held companies have a tough time being too flexible sometimes, and it becomes favoritism or unfair, or, and communication falters. They don't have process. So I spent a lot of years really thinking about just that. What do I feel is the fine balance? We remain a very aggressive company. It's Seth's personality, my partner. It's also my personality as well. And I think even though we're able to maintain that family feel, I think we've kind of moved closer to larger company focused strategy type. And as part of that, we've had to communicate more. Town hall meetings with our people. I think they really appreciate knowing, nobody can deny that the past 5 years have been some of the most turbulent years in our supply chain history. And just having constant communication and a willingness to be honest with our employees. It's tough to have a town hall meeting when you have a lot of bad news and it looks like a really tough storm is coming. But you got to have those discussions with them. And I think they appreciate being treated like adults. They appreciate hearing from it firsthand from Seth and myself and the senior leadership team. And it becomes genuine. It becomes real. They become part of what we're doing, and they understand. And I couldn't be more proud of my organization from top to bottom and how they've handled all the things that we've been through. And I'm excited about where we are today.
We talk a lot in footwear about relationships, kind of coming from COVID into, this kind of era of higher tariffs, this new epic of tariffs that we have. Not to get into the weeds of that, but I'm just more interested in like how you facilitate relationships with your vendors, with your customers and your clients. Like we talk about how important it is to be in front of people. COVID challenged that. Now we're able to get back in front of people, but now we're dealing with something a little bit different. And it just seems like more and more people who are typically transactional don't succeed in the footwear industry for some reason. Maybe you can just share some insights around what you think about relationships, how you build and maintain those relationships.
It's a great question. We look at things this way. First, we always think about the consumer. Then we think about our customers, oftentimes wholesalers. Then we think about our supply chain partners. And if we do a good job at that, then we typically win. And it's not always in that order, but we think of ourselves last. We feel that if we take care of those pillars, the company's going to win. And as you're navigating through all of these uncertain times that we've been through over the past 5 years, that's really worked for us. If you're just transactional, COVID, I was so proud of our industry during COVID. We were unsure where we were if people were going to pay their bills. We weren't sure if cash flow was going to come in a manner for us to be able to pay our bills. I mean, we all went through it. And the industry really kind of got together and we said, look, let's continue to do business. We're going to work this out. It's going to work out. And we just kind of started to trust each other. And I was so proud. I remember coming home to my wife and saying, work for a really great industry. I was so proud because it was about the relationships in that turbulent time when everything was so uncertain. And that got us through. Now, we did, of course, have partners that were just transactional. Those partners are probably not in our portfolio anymore. They got paid and we moved on. And thank God we did, because the next 4 years have been just as turbulent. Transportation crisis, rate hikes for logistics. It's just gone on and on and on. So I think, the FDRA's got a sourcing summit coming out in about a month, a little plug for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about that, how you really got to decide in sourcing if you're going to have partners that are transactional and just want the order, or if it's a real partnership. That's critical in sourcing, and it's critical in our supply chain.
Well, that's the thing, is because if they are transactional, those are the people that cut the corners, isn't it? Like those are the people who are kind of quickly making decisions and saying, okay, that's what it takes to get that here and there. Maybe not always. You're going back and forth on it, but it feels like sometimes that may be the case, where if you have a relationship and a problem comes up, you're more likely to work it out and solve it.
Yeah, I think you need transactional partners in your portfolio too. They just can't make up the lion's share of it, because that means you have a short-term strategy. It's no different than an employee who loves what he or she does. They're happy to sit in a role. They're happy to do that role forever. You need those types of employees, but you also need the types of employees that come in and they want to progress and they want to grow and they want to get into the new thing. You need a balance of both. You just have to decide, how long you want to be in the game. And if you're thinking long term, I think partnerships is the way to go.
Well, I totally agree with that, because we've had a number of companies on the retailer side of the equation, if you will, that have almost had their heads in the sand about, and these aren't FDRA members, of course, but about the tariffs in particular, that, it's just going to go away, or it's not really a thing, or if someone else will pay these, don't the Chinese pay it? And those are the transactional people, I find. It's the partners you like, man, things are hitting the fan. And we know as the middleman, Josue, that you and your team are feeling the brunt of that. You're having really difficult conversations with your suppliers. You're having difficult conversations with us. Let's navigate through this together. The ones that are saying no price increases whatsoever, I'm like, what rock are you living under, retailer? So I think that's where when things are hitting the fan, like they do almost every single day right now, that those partnerships really shine through, because they have a full understanding of the landscape, and they are self-aware about the challenges that you're under, which means they're going to be under the same challenge. It's a shared supply chain. And so, which means the consumer is going to be under that same challenge. So I think that's why you don't want a majority of transactional customers, because they're not going to understand the pressures that you're under, nor respond in a way that's positive when you need to work together to find a solution to a challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to retailers, I always err on the side of empathy, because we sell everybody in the United States. We have a huge international business as well. But every retailer has a different personality. Every retailer has a different weeks of supply on hand. Every retailer has different real estate deals that they're striking with their landlords, and it's just a different model retailer by retailer. So in this example that you brought up, we went to some of our retailers very early on, and we're like, this is coming, and they're like, we're going to take a wait and see approach. That doesn't mean they're transactional. It just means that given their particular position on where they are in their supply chain, that's what benefits them. And then we've had other retailers say, yeah, you know what, I'm running out of inventory. I better buy inventory now because the inventory we have in the States now is probably the best deal before the tariffs go up. And you have everything in between. So I think, again, thinking about the consumer, thinking about your retail partners, and then thinking about your supply chain partners, as long as you follow that path, I think you're probably on a safe journey.
You're far more diplomatic than I am. That's why you have your job and I have mine, I guess. So.
Josue, what do you do to take care of yourself? What do you do to unwind over the weekend, or if you go on vacation? Like, what do you do as a leader to kind of step back and recharge?
So I play a lot of tennis, and I hit that tennis ball as hard as I can on the court as often as I can. And every time I strike that tennis ball, I feel like it's a stress relief. I just leave it all on the court. I come home exhausted. But I think as leaders, it's very important that you take care of yourself physically. In the mornings, a 15-minute stretch, some push-ups, jump in the shower, that kind of thing, a good breakfast, vitamins. Especially when you travel a lot, you've got to stay healthy. If you're going to be positive and encouraging and sharp-minded, you've got to take care of yourself physically and emotionally. And so, in the mornings, I usually try to get into a routine. And then after work, it's not uncommon for me to be running straight to the tennis courts for a 2-hour match. And that's kind of what I do. My wife and I love to travel, of course. So, you've got to have life balance. And frankly, sometimes I see my employees sending emails over the weekend, and I ask them not to do that. I don't send emails over the weekend. I might write emails on the weekend, but I schedule them to go out Monday morning because I don't want my employees to lack in life balance. I think that's very important. I think you get more out of yourself and your people, more productivity when you can find that balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Matt, I hear that Josue will take those tennis balls and write tariff and Sharpie on those things, and those are the ones he really whacks really hard.
As far as I can hit them.
As
long as it's not writing our names, Andy, we're good. We're in good shape.
Let's hope not. Let's hope we do a good job for him.
You guys always do.
And now it's time for some footwear fun. We're gonna change gears just a little bit here. Again, a big thank you to OrthoLite for sponsoring this leadership series and helping us bring these great conversations to life. Again, OrthoLite partners with over 550 of the world's leading footwear brands, elevating comfort and performance with every step. You can learn more about their incredible work at ortholite.com. Matt,
yes.
what are we going to throw at Josue today? Which one are you going to
like a rapid fire tennis ball machine? We're gonna throw a couple at you, Josue. First up, this is what we call our lace up and level up series. Like if you had one piece of advice, Johnny come lately's rolling in the shoe industry. He wants a job, stat. What's some advice you'd give him? What's like one piece of advice you'd give him as he joins the industry?
I would tell him to prioritize learning first, not getting the money first. Learn, progress, and the money will come. You can make a lot of money in this industry. You can have a lot of different experiences, but don't just come in and expect to be at the top. Come in, roll up your sleeves, learn what you're doing, and the payoffs are exponential as you move through your career.
I like it. We always learning is good. All right, next one. And Andy, you can jump in after this one if you got one, if I forgot one. But you travel a lot. We talked about that. How do you, when you're coming to Market Week in New York or you're heading to Asia, what's your shoe game? How do you pack for versatility but space? You're not hauling a whole shoe bag all these places. What do you go with when it comes to footwear?
It's funny because one of those lessons that Bob and Don taught me is that you never check a bag. So whether it's a 2-week trip or a 3-week trip, I have a carry-on bag and a backpack, and whatever can fit in that bag, that's what's going. And then I do laundry on the road at the hotels if I need to, because we're in and out of so many hotels and in and out of so many countries just on one trip. So I like to travel comfortably. A pair of athletic shoes. I won't pick one for you guys because I don't want to. A pair of athletic shoes and some comfortable pants and maybe a sweatshirt and a jacket. And then as soon as I land, I get dressed up, showered, dressed up, and I'm ready to go.
Is that one pair of shoes you bring for everything, or do you have like two pair? Like
I travel with 2 pairs of shoes. It's an athletic pair of shoes, which I use in the gym in the morning, and a dress pair of shoes.
Got it.
What about you're in Florida most of the time? On the weekend, are you a sandal guy? Like, will you go out in sandals, or are you only wearing sneakers? Which one?
I'm not a sandal guy. If you know anything about tennis players, we don't want to show our feet. We're pounding our feet all the time. So I wear closed-toe shoes most of the time. And but obviously on the beach, I'm in a pair of flip-flops enjoying myself. We hit the beach a lot down here.
Got it.
I'm jealous.
I got one more.
All right, go for
it. When you were growing up as a teenager, back to school's coming very soon. Everybody, every kid has an opinion on what shoe they want. What do you remember? As soon as I talk about this, you know exactly in your head what shoe it was. What was the shoe you craved the most when you were a teenager that you had to have?
It was the Adidas shell toe fat lace shoe. And I'm going to give you guys a fun fact. I used to be a break dancer when I was very young.
What?
And that's what we wore. And if you ask me to break dance at a conference, I will say absolutely not.
Oh.
But that's what
AI is for. That's what AI is for.
Yeah, we have a project.
I love that. White on white, and throw in some color and match the fat.
What was that movie? Beat Street? Remember Beat Street?
Yeah, I remember Beat Street.
We took like a refrigerator box, cardboard box, and we flattened it out on my back patio. We would break dance on our members only jackets, and oh my gosh,
members only jacket. That's a little different for a break dancer, but all right.
And like painters caps. I remember wearing painters caps.
Bingo hats, the whole thing.
By the way, programming note, October 2nd, 2017 is when we published our 72nd episode with one Dr. Bob Campbell. And now we're in 480 something episodes. So that tells you how long ago we had him on. But I remember that episode. It's well worth the listen if people want to go back and remind themselves of what a great man he was.
Absolutely. Well, Josue, we appreciate you joining us today to share a little bit about your leadership style, what you guys are doing internally. We think those are just as important as kind of the conversations about how we manage transit and sourcing and all of that, especially in this day and age. So I appreciate you coming on to share a little bit about that.
Thanks for taking the time with me, guys. And you're doing a great job. And I look forward to seeing you in Washington soon.
Awesome. Folks, that wraps another episode of the Shoe and Show Footwear Leadership Series powered by OrthoLite. A huge thanks to OrthoLite for helping power these conversations. And for you for listening, as a reminder, shoeandshow.com. What Matt just said, it has our full catalog, our full episode list of shows where you can go and listen to all types. For our Shoe Leadership Series in particular, it is shoeleaders.com, a very clever URL we came up with, shoeleaders.com. You can go and listen to, I think one out now is with Danny from Robertson and Murphy, which was awesome. And we got more and more that are going to be coming out over this year as we kind of go through the tariff chaos, in addition to other things that keep happening to our industry. And we think, again, leadership and culture is so important to get through this as an industry. So we hope you find some real value in these conversations. As much as we find value and have a lot of fun doing this, it's really meaningful to us on FDRA staff that we're bringing these to light. And again, thanks to OrthoLite for helping us do that. Next Monday, new episode. Now, a little pulp pontification as we end it. It's summertime. Make sure you use sunscreen, folks. SPF 50. All right? Don't fool around with the 15. Go to the 50. You don't want the skin cancer. Just saying. All right. Shoe In is out.